Hello, welcome to another episode of This, That, and the Other. How many of you remember APBA, APBA, the various sports leagues board game? Basically, they had different sports: baseball, basketball, football, hockey, soccer, saddle racing, golf, and bowling. Those are the ones I remember. I don't know. There may have been others as well, but I remember I used to play the football board game when I was with my brother when I was younger. I don't have those games anymore. I made a little bit of money selling them off on eBay, so I didn't play them anymore, and they were just taking up space. But one of the things I did save was the player cards from the 1976 season. That was the first year I started watching football. And what it is basically, these cards are the various players that played on the teams, and this how they end up performing on the APBA board is based on how they actually performed during the regular season. So I'll show you some card sets. We got the 1976 St. Louis Cardinals, back when they were in St. Louis, and I'm gonna take a look at some of these names. I remember J.V. Kane. He died in training camp, 1979. Just going through here, just looking for some others. Conrad Dobler, later traded to the Saints. Dan Deerdorf, he later was personality on Monday Night Football. Got some other names I don't really remember as well. I do remember lineman Bob Young. He was later traded to the Houston Oilers. Seems like I'm doing the offensive line. Tom Banks, a center. I remember him well. He ended up playing on the Birmingham Stallions in the USFL. Let's look at some other names here. Larry Stallings, a linebacker. Looking for some certain players. Receiver Pat Tilley. Their place kicker Jim Bakken. And you see also they have some ratings for other things, like he's got a #1 quarterback rating. I don't know if he ever actually played quarterback before. He's got a #1 rating, could be used as a halfback as well. I don't know how that would actually work out if you tried to do that. Oh yeah, Mel Gray, wide receiver. This one I've been looking for, the quarterback, Jim Hartz. Remember him well. He ended his career with the Redskins. Terry Metcalf. He also ended his playing career with the Redskins, if I'm not mistaken. He was on that first team that was coached by Joe Gibbs. And as a matter of fact, Joe Gibbs also brought John Riggins back too. Got him back after a year hiatus, and John Riggins. You had Riggins and Metcalf in the same backfield that year. All right, I got some cards from the 1976 Seattle Seahawks. That was an expansion team that year. That's one of the reasons I've saved the set from 1976 is because of the because the Seattle Seahawks and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because those are brand new teams. All right, you got the backup quarterback, Bill Munson. Later on was on the Buffalo Bills. He played on different teams, if I remember right. Receiver Steve Largent. There's a certain. Oh yeah, here's the person I'm looking for. Quarterback Jim Zorn was actually Redskins head coach years later, for a few years. And that's about as far as I'm going to go on the Seattle Seahawks. I was mainly looking for Jim Zorn's card and Steve Largent's. Oh, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was a team that went winless that season, and also went winless, almost went completely winless the next season. Finally won their last 2 games. All right, here's one of the quarterbacks on Tampa Bay Buccaneers the first year before Doug Williams, Parnell Dickinson, he #1 rating. They also had Terry Hanratty, who was a Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback, on that team as well as a third stringer. We got Steve Spurrier, that was a starting quarterback. He was on only a #2 rating. So I mean, this team was pretty bad. He also later became a coach for the Redskins. I'm gonna go through here real quick and see if there's any interesting. John McKay's son, J.K. McKay, only a 2 rating as well. I mean, this team was pretty bad first year. I don't believe they were able to pick players in the draft. I believe they just had to sign free agents. That's one of the reasons they were at a disadvantage when they were on that. When they became a team, put a team together. Seemed like the defensive players were definitely better ranked. I remember Tampa Bay had a better defense. Dave Pear, I remember him in defense for Tampa Bay. Let's take a look through here and see if there's anything else interesting. Pat Toomey, I remember him being on, I think, on another team as well. Defensive end. So defensive players had some of them had like, the best ones had like a 3 rating. So I mean, this is not a great football team. As a matter of fact, their offense could barely do anything. And after the first year, all 3 of those quarterbacks were gone. And next year they had some more. They acquired Barilla out of Philadelphia, which ended up getting injured in the preseason. And I was reading Randy Hedberg was one of their quarterbacks, and Jeb Blount. And I think they're basically the quarterback that finally won some games for them was Gary Huff, Florida State quarterback. And he ended up, next year they drafted Doug Williams, and they signed Mike Ray as a backup to Doug Williams from the Raiders. He had actually been a quarterback for John McKay at USC, and Gary Huff was like a 3rd string quarterback that next year. And I think the year after that they drafted Chuck Fusina out of Penn State, and he was a 3rd string quarterback. But that 1976 team was pretty bad. A little history on APBA. It was created in 1951 by trucking firm purchaser J. Richard Sites. The acronym stands for American Professional Baseball Association. The name of a board game league Sites devised in 1931 with 8 high school classmates. So he had this idea already going before creating the official board game, and that's basically what I was able to find out on the history of the APBA sports. And like I said, it's still around, and I do see these games for sale on eBay, and most of them are selling for over $100 a piece. I know when I sold the 2 that I had, I believe I made $100, at least 100 on each one. And that original board game, that thing got so worn out, I threw it away. And I have the like I said, I kept the card set, player cards, and that was it. And like I said, I'm looking for ideas on things to talk about in the future. And about a month from now, we're going to start seeing preseason football, which I'm very excited about. Always sad to see that football season's the shortest out of all the seasons of the league, and always sad to see the championship games, and then you got the break in between them when they get with the Pro Bowl, which I never watch, and then you got the Super Bowl, and then the season's over until next year. So anyway, like, subscribe, share. As always, thanks for watching.